Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Amos, and we are we're continuing the judgments upon the nations. And today we're talking about the Ammonites at the end of chapter 1, verses 13 through 15. So the first three nations were not genetically related, ethnically related, at least not closely, to the Jews, but the next three are. The Edomites descend from Esau. The Ammonites and the Moabites descend from Lot, something we read about in the book of Genesis. The Ammonites and the Moabites have their kingdoms in the Transjordan, in other words, on the eastern side of the Jordan River. The Ammonites are basically directly across from the northern kingdom, and the Moabites are directly across from the southern kingdom. But both the southern and northern kingdoms continue to be at war with the Ammonites. In fact, the war with the Ammonites goes all the way back to the time of the judges. Um, and at the very beginning of Saul's reign, the Ammonites come against the area of Jabesh Gilead, which is a Jewish area on their side of the Jordan River, and they surround them and they say, "We're going to kill you all," and the Jews say, "Well, let us make a treaty and we'll recognize your rule." And they say, "Okay, so long as we can gouge out every one of your right eyes." And that's what we know about the Ammonites. I mean, they are vicious in war, and we're going to learn that today too. Thus says the Lord, for 3 transgressions of the sons of Ammon and for 4, I will not revoke its punishment, because they ripped open the pregnant women of Gilead in order to enlarge their borders. So I will kindle a fire on the wall of Rabbah, and will consume her citadels amid war cries on the day of battle, and a storm on the day of tempest. Their king will go into exile, he and his princes together, says the Lord. And of course, they're carried into Assyrian captivity. They ripped open the pregnant women of Gilead. This is not a metaphor for anything. They actually did that. This practice is attested to in a variety of sources in the ancient Near East. Um, the Assyrian inscription, the hymn to Tiglath-Pileser the First, which is old. It dates from about 1100 BC, which makes it around the time of Eli, and around the time um, maybe Samuel was born, maybe a little bit before that time. So it's old at this point. And it celebrates that practice that when Tiglath-Pileser conquered an area, conquered a city, he would rip off the heads of the men and rip open the bellies of the pregnant women. It was just a way of being as vicious, as violent as you possibly could to not just conquer, but to destroy and humiliate and to strike fear in any of your enemies. Of course, Assyria from the very beginning almost wanted to be an empire, not just a great nation, but an empire, and wanted to continue to expand, 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 and conquer, conquer, conquer. The Ammonites may have learned this from the Assyrians, I don't know, but they did it, and it's not a metaphor. That's what they did. And God is not going to, this is not okay. This is just not okay. There are going to be consequences. We haven't made this comment yet, but let me go ahead and make it. Even in Old Testament times, God is angered at these war crimes. When after the First World War, nations got together at Geneva to write the Geneva Conventions. That was a good thing. Um, you know, um, um, all is not fair in war. It isn't. Not to God. Not to God. It isn't. And he's not condemning them for waging war, but these war crimes, he will not revoke his punishment for these things. So he's going to do what he says to the other nations. I'm going to consume your citadels. You think you're safe, you're not going to be safe. Rabbah is their capital. I'm going to bring fire on the wall, consume her citadels. amid war cries on the day of battle and a storm on the day of tempest. It's going to be particularly violent, loud, extreme, and want to destroy you and carry your kings and your princes into exile. Okay, we'll talk about the Moabites next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.